Star Wars is one of the most successful and widely known franchises of all time, starting with a great first feature directed by Jorge Lacuz. I think that's how his name is pronounced. Just kidding, of course. His name is George Lucas. Everyone's heard of him. Whether you love him or more likely hate him if you are a Star Wars fan, really, it doesn't matter because he made the first one. So, then he gave his reins to Star Wars for the sequel to be directed by some other guy, and then the next one to be directed by a completely other guy. All three of them are amazing and some of people's favorite films of all time. All of them have left an impact, and while people consider Return of the Jedi to be not the best, it still is famous, and everyone likes it. And it's still really good, okay? I saw it, and I really liked it, okay? Anyway, then George decided to come back and direct all three of the prequel films that everyone hated. Well, not immediately. Most people liked them after they came out, and then everyone hated them for a while, and now it's more controversial. And to the Disney era, where Disney bought the rights to Star Wars to try and make it the second biggest franchise after Marvel, of course, which it has succeeded in doing, although the movie franchise was, I think, always the second biggest, but that doesn't matter, okay? I then decided to throw out all of George Lucas's ideas, and yeah, that's a pretty, rude thing to do. I do understand why they did that, because George Lucas was pretty widely hated by Star Wars fans, so they didn't want that stigma. Anyway, so then they decide to make 3 Star Wars movies and some 2 spin-off films, which have been gone from controversial to almost universally hated. So yeah, let's get and start the actual video. Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, or as it was originally titled, Star Wars, until George Lucas decided to make that the title to the franchise, but whatever. Anyway, so this film is really good, okay? I love it. I love it. It is so good. Now, I really could describe every reason why it's so good, but the problem is that with every single one of these movies, they've been now analyzed into such great detail that it's impossible for me to say anything that hasn't already been said. It's kind of sad, actually, but yeah, it's fun. It's a really fun movie, and I say that it is. I tried to watch it like a long time ago, like a really long time ago, right? And I was like really young. I didn't understand anything. I didn't know what Star Wars was, so my dad tried to put it on. I found it really dumb, so I didn't watch it. I watch it now, and I'm happy I didn't watch it then, because it's quite enjoyable. It is. Yeah. I won't give Lucas credit for this movie. This was a fluke, but the casting is on point. I know some people say, that, Mark Hamill didn't do a very good job, but I think he really sold it really well. All of the characters are perfect. Perfect. And honestly, this movie is an instant classic. It's nearly impossible for me to say anything, and I've already reviewed this movie before, so, yeah, I guess if you want to see my longer thoughts about the movie, then go watch that video. It shouldn't be hard to find. I give it a 9 out of 10. There is no doubt in my mind that Star Wars The Holiday Special is by far the best sequel ever made for any movie ever. Now, what is to like about this movie? Of course, everything, I could go on from all those examples that I just gave. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. This shows a complete and utter non-resemblance of what the fuck they were doing. They were crazy. They must have been on freaking acid when they made this movie. It is terrible. And it's not terrible in in an understandable way, like it's boring or the plot is kind of crazy. No, it's terrible in a way where literally anybody could have said, "Oh yeah, that's a bad idea." I seriously cannot fucking believe that nobody was like, "Oh, yeah, that we should not put that in the film." It seems like it was created by, one insane person. I mean, again, I can't really say anything, because this has kind of become a meme online, but yeah, this film, it fucking sucks. It's terrible. It is so bad. It is so bad. It really gets annoying, too. I have to say this. It gets fucking annoying all the time. Why do we have to get these dumbass Wookiee guys? They never bring them up later. I guess I don't know, is this canon? I don't know if this is canon. I have no freaking clue. It doesn't make any sense. This is, why? Okay, well, yeah, I could pick apart everything, the fact that the fucking Wookiees don't even have subtitles, so it's just annoying rambling. This is so bad. This is so bad, okay? But whatever. I give this terrible movie that you should never, ever watch a 1 out of 10. It is that bad. I love this movie. This is great. These are the good films. I can't just keep praising them. If only there were, problems with it. I mean, yeah, there are some, I could mention the special editions, which, are terrible, but at this point, I'm pretty sure that there has been so much said about these special editions that, I could make a frame-by-frame analysis of each of the special editions in these movies, and I wouldn't say anything new, because everyone has already said everything about such a small portion of the film. It ruins so much for its size, but it really, I didn't watch those versions of it, so I just watched the despecialized versions, but whatever. Talk about the actual movie. It's super enjoyable. I mean, I knew the twist, but it's still really good. There's so much. Yoda is such an iconic character. And all of these, everyone introduced in this movie. I mean, mostly Yoda, though. Lando is great. I mean, he's so cool. A lot better than Samuel L. Jackson. Well, we'll get to that later. It's so phenomenal. It's such a, interesting, plot, and the pacing is just perfect. So, I give this a 10 out of 10. So, Return of the Jedi. I know that the battle for what the best Star Wars movie is between the rivals of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back. But I offer this as the winner, to my personal opinion, of what I think is the best Star Wars movie ever. Yes, this is my favorite. I'm not kidding. Now, I know, I know there are a lot of people that will disagree with me on this, and it's very close. Empire Strikes Back comes very close to beating this one out, but this is, in my opinion, the best Star Wars movie ever. It's very possible that I am biased because this is the first one I watched. I don't know how this was the first one I watched and not the other ones, but whatever. And I find, by the way, I'm just saying, I've known that Darth Vader was Luke's father for years. This movie was not the thing that spoiled it for me. I'm just saying. But whatever. I will say that this is it's just so good. It's just so good. Now, I want to defend myself a little bit. Okay, for everything that people complain about is something I enjoy, okay? I know, whatever, okay. This entire, Jabba the Hutt thing, fine, okay, it's pointless, but it's fun, okay? You know what the purpose of a movie is? It's for you to enjoy it, okay? That is the singular purpose of every single fucking movie ever made. Even if you enjoy it by analyzing it, I don't know, Citizen Kane, or something like that, where there's a deeper meaning and better cinematography. Those are all steps that are made for you to enjoy the film more. So if a movie can succeed in making you enjoy it more without doing any of those things, then in my opinion, it succeeded just as much as the movies that succeeded while doing those things. I know I'm not disparaging Citizen Kane here. I think that's a great movie. But this is, we're not talking about Citizen Kane here. We're talking about Return of the Jedi. Okay, Jabba the Hutt, I actually am really entertained by it. And the beginning song, honestly, even in the special editions, the song isn't very good. But I just like it. Okay, fine. It's catchy and it doesn't fit the tone. But if you just remove it from the movie, then yes, it is. I do enjoy it. But if you put it in, it's not good in the context. But still, okay. And the original song that they used for it, was good in my opinion. The one that Lucas removed. Okay. So, and I really like how the ending, the Wookiee thing, or sorry, not the Wookiee, the Ewoks, okay, they're fine. I know that people talk about them just being, for toys. Okay, that's probably true, but I find them as enjoyable characters, okay? Now, I think that I think that they're not amazing, but I find them fun enough. I find them good characters. The battle on Endor was great. Wasn't the best part in the movie. The best part of the movie, however, was not the Jabba the Hutt scene. Was not the Battle of Endor or whatever. It was obviously the confrontation between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine and whatever. So this is by far, or at least not by far, but in my opinion, the best that Star Wars has ever done. It's the best, okay? Now, even people that don't like this movie much will say that is the best. I mean, maybe not the best part of Star Wars ever, but the best part of that movie, and was really, really good. Okay, there's one major criticism I have for the film, and this is the only thing I have, is that I think it's really stupid that they had to destroy another Death Star. It's like, dude, you could have come up with something better. But aside from that, I'll let him. Everything's great, okay, and perfect. So I give it a 10 out of 10. So, this is an Ewok adventure. Yes. Yes. The movie that was made for television. I think it got nominated for an Emmy or two. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it did. And I will ask, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Because this movie is so bad. It is so bad. Even for, I think that, I mean, if I was to not consider my feelings of ironic enjoyment, and just consider unironic enjoyment, the Star Wars Holiday Special is worse, but only by a very, very small margin. And it is kind of technically worse, but this movie is, in my opinion, my least favorite Star Wars movie ever made. The characters are so unlikable. It is hilarious at times. The ending is, insane. They, fight a giant, monster thing, and it has, fucking, this has no characters from Star Wars. This is just, a completely third thing. I know I like third, with I like, what is it? I like Mandalorian and stuff, but, this doesn't feel like it has anything to do with Star Wars. This feels like just a generic fantasy movie. This is so bad. Don't watch it. 1 out of 10. The Ewoks battle for Endor. Now, this is a sequel to an Ewok adventure, sometimes referred to as Cavern of Courage, showing that George Lucas can not only ruin the titles of the movies that are actually popular, he can also ruin the titles for movies that he wants to fucking bury. This is not Star Wars. Aside from the Ewoks, there is literally no resemblance to anything Star Wars. There is magic. There is wizards and witches with magic. This is not Star Wars. They had 3 movies to go off of by this point. I don't know how they fucked it up, but seriously, no. No. Okay? No. Throw this movie in the trash, okay? Now, there were 2 main characters in the last movie. Now, they decided to immediately kill off one of the child main characters, and the main character is this terribly acted Sindel character. I feel bad for the actor. This is just as terrible as the last one, except with freaking magic, so I can criticize it more. It's so bad. Don't watch it. It's terrible. It's terrible, okay? Now, the only thing that makes it not as bad as the last one is that the hermit character is fun enough. He's not, amazing, but he's good. So that puts him up 1 point. This is a 2 out of 10, because movie is not as bad as the last one, and the hermit guy is cool, but, like, aside from that, everything is bad. Do not watch this, do not watch this, do not watch this. This is a 2 out of 10. The Phantom Menace. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Ooh, boy. Ooh, boy. Now, this movie has become a little bit more controversial in recent years. So I've decided to, not attack anybody's character, which is, I hope is a step in the right direction. But I call this, one of the worst Star Wars movies ever, aside from those freaking dumb spin-off movies that, like, no one has ever heard of. A holiday special, the Ewok movies. This is the worst. This is by far the worst, okay? Well, not by far the worst, but it is the worst, okay? Now, I can't talk about anything in this film because it's just, I've already, the Mr. Plinkett reviews by Red Letter Media have already said everything. But I'll try to give my honest opinion on what I think about this movie. Now, this movie is terrible. This movie is absolutely terrible. The only thing that is good about this movie is that Qui-Gon Jinn comes back and does, like, a voice cameo in the Rise of Skywalker. You might not have even realized, but I did, so, yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there, because Darth Maul is okay. The technical stuff is good. The music is good, obviously. John Williams, he never fails, right? I don't think he's made a bad score, ever. He might have, but he's such an amazing, he's such an amazing musician that he's made almost every iconic score, ever. It's crazy. It's getting to the point where it's like, come on, man, let other composers, have a chance so that somebody will be able to succeed you once you die. He has won so many awards that he's only beaten out by, Disney. And Disney won awards for, everything. Directing and, writing and voice acting and, so many, and producing and everything, right? But then, freaking, this John Williams comes in and wins Oscars for one thing, but I don't know. I'm not talking about John Williams. I'm talking about The Phantom Menace. Maybe it's a statement to how bad The Phantom Menace is that I was able to talk about John Williams for, a long time, and then, because I'm so disinterested with this movie, Anakin, okay, I'm sorry, guy that played him, but you really sucked in this, and he knows that it sucked, right? But honestly, it's not entirely his fault. The lines in this movie were so badly written, it's almost kind of funny. One thing I just realized was that Padme is supposed to be 14 in this movie, even though she was 20 when they made this. So that's a bit of a stretch. I didn't know that for the longest time, but whatever. Qui-Gon is kind of fun, because I really like the actor that plays him. I can't remember his name off of the top of my head right now. Liam Neeson, that's who it is, sorry. And, yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi should be in it more. Darth Maul is kind of cool, not really amazing. I thought that he was mute everyone thought he was mute, right? But that's just because he was so in the movie so little that he never had a chance to speak, even though maybe he was intended to be mute, maybe he wasn't, and that people just retconned that later. But in the later movies, he has lines. So, I think he has more lines in Solo than he does in this entire film. Yeah, this movie, is really bad, okay? There's some redeeming elements to it, but is just so dumb. It's so boring. I'm searching my memory, and I really cannot come up with very much to say about it because I can't remember anything that happened in the movie. Like, yes, that is how it is so bad, okay? 3 out of 10. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. In many ways, the Empire Strikes Back of the prequel trilogy. You know, it's kind of funny how the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy kind of follow the same critical response, except the opposite, right? Like Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, were both extremely terrible. Star Wars Episode Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, were people are arguing over which one is worse. And it's very hard to tell because they're so similarly awful. And Star Wars Episode 3 and Return of the Jedi, most people agree are either the worst or the best one of the series, and some people are tricked into thinking that, well, some people think, they're not tricked into thinking, they think, or they believe, their opinion is, that one of these movies is either good or bad, respectively, or good for Revenge of the Sith, or bad for Return of the Jedi. This movie sucks so much. The love story in this is like the most infuriating thing ever, okay? It is too long. It is not funny. It's slightly better than Episode 1 because I actually knew what was going on. There's not as much Jar Jar, that's great. The acting is flat as shit. There's no kids in it, so it's better. It sucks. It sucks so much. It sucks so much. There are so many, I could go into so much stuff. Every single, like this is a thing that I was able to do, and that a lot of people on YouTube have pointed out. It's that you could take almost like a 90% of the lines and take one random line from that 90% and analyze in it, and it wouldn't make sense for one reason or another, because it's like the Citizen Kane of bad writing. Like, I'm serious. With Citizen Kane, every single line fits perfectly. In this, every single line fits absolutely terribly. Yeah, George Lucas, just keep jamming that freaking square peg in a round hole. You'll get there eventually, man. This movie really, really sucks. I give it a 3 out of 10. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, okay? Revenge of the Sith. This movie is really bad. What a surprise. It's not as bad as the other two, but it is very, very boring. There are some things to ironically enjoy about the movie, but there are also many things to unironically hate about the movie, okay? There are so many problems with the prequels. The story is bad. The acting is bad. The writing is bad. The dialogue is bad. The casting is bad. The special effects are pretty good, but they're not integrated well into the story, so they're essentially bad. I mean, yeah, the special effects are good for the time, but, like, they're not... I don't care, okay? If the only thing that your movie has going for it is that it has great special effects, then you've essentially... You're not a good movie, okay? Special effects are impressive, but, they're not an end to themselves. If you do want to watch a movie that is just special effects that are groundbreaking, then I'm pretty sure there are a lot of special effects demos that you could watch. This is supposed to be telling a story, not trying to be telling a special effect, okay? The end lightsaber fight is extremely long, okay? It could have been 5 minutes. It didn't have to be 5 hours, okay? There are so many things they could have cut down, and there are so many things that they could have added in that would have made it better, okay? This is just so bad. It's just so boring, okay? So, you know, it was really hard for me to get through these movies because they're just so boring. I guess I can find some ironic enjoyment out of them, pointing out every single little problem, because there are many, but, yeah, so, you know, I do also find it kind of stupid that fucking Darth Vader has, like, 2 lines in the movie, and his suit is in it for, like, 1 scene, and yet he takes up the entire, like, half of the box art that I'm using. Like, come on, man. You... Seriously? Okay. Anyway, yeah, also, everything, you know, of course... Anakin's backstory is super rushed, and it's come a joke because of how rushed it is at this point. This is super rushed. There are probably good things, but I have not the energy, nor the willingness to list them off. I guess the music is good, but that's all I'm gonna say. So, I give it a 4 out of 10. It's not as bad as the other two, but it still sucks. The Star Wars Clone Wars show is a great show. And if you are a fan of Star Wars or a fan of shows or good animated shows, you should watch the Clone Wars TV show. This, however, even though it is titled the same, I don't know why they couldn't have just titled it a different thing, whatever, is the movie. And it is enjoyable in some places, not very enjoyable in others. It is a lot better than the prequels, even though it's set in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So it is quite entertaining. However, there are many problems with it. Ahsoka is in some places a good character, but in most places just fucking annoying. In the show, she is a lot better, but in this movie, she is very, very annoying in some places. They add some new cool stuff to the lore, but there are also some things that aren't great. Like, I don't know, the fact that there is another, like, that Jabba the Hutt has, like, an uncle or a brother, and that he has a son, which, like, was sick, but then was just cured. Like, the plot doesn't make any sense. Why would you infect him? Why would you infect the son with a, like, virus and then not, like, do it? Why? It just doesn't even work. Like, it's a super curable, like, disease, I guess. like, dude, Sith guys. I mean, I can't explain the plot to you because it's a little convoluted. If you're a big fan of Star Wars, I would recommend it. It's a lot better than other movies on this list, but, it's not amazing. I don't know really how much detail to go into, and I don't remember very much from this movie. It's kind of boring and forgettable, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for some good things, but, and some good execution, but there are a lot of problems. Star Wars The Force Awakens is the best of the new movies. Now, everyone's already talked about all these movies to death, but I would like to point out I watched this when it first came out to theaters. Before I'm not even a Star Wars fan now very much. I mean, I like some of the stuff, but I feel like people are kind of over the top about it, but that doesn't matter anyway. It's fine. It's pretty good, actually, I'll say. There are a couple problems with it, but I think Finn is one of the major upsides of it. His character is kind of ruined in the next two films, but in this, he's perfect. Rey is interesting. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's a fun Star Wars film. There isn't much to be really talk about, really, I guess. But it's people say, oh, it's a rehash of A New Hope. Kind of, but it's fun in its own way. And I think that the cast is actually really good. Now, some of the lines are bad, but I'll say that, this overall is a quite good movie. So I will give it a 7 out of 10. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, is quite an interesting film. There are a lot of good action and adventure parts of the film, and I find it very entertaining on some level. But there's also some downsides to this. Like, for example, the fact that, it kind of retracts from the stakes at the end of the A New Hope was because, they installed a weakness on purpose. I thought that, in just like a planet-sized space station, they were just bound to make a security flaw. I thought that was why, it was like, that's why they would, I thought that was the reason. I didn't know it was specifically in there by design, I guess. But there's, I also feel like this must have been like a reaction because some people were like, oh, this, that, even though it's really stupid. Like, come on. Like, it doesn't matter if if the weakness is kind of obvious. It's not even that obvious. Apparently, they say the shot is extremely hard to get. And you would only have been able to figure this out if you had the Death Star plans. So, I think it's fine, right? They decided to make it that way. I guess that's fine. There are some good parts, but the main drawback is the acting is bad and the characterization is bad. Aside from this, guy that the blind Force user, who is, a really interesting character type, I guess. I'll say most of the actors are really plain, especially the main two characters are really, really dumb and really boring. So, I don't know. I can't really call this an amazing film, but it's probably more enjoyable. It's definitely more enjoyable than the other, Star Wars sequel movies. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. The Last Jedi. Star Wars The Last Jedi is one of the most controversial current films like ever. It's so crazy how people take this so seriously. Now, I've got my problems with it, but I think overall it's pretty okay. Now, let's go into the problems and the good things. Okay, the problem is, even though I like this movie, Rose is terrible. Finn and Rose's entire subplot in this movie is completely unnecessary and is the most infuriating thing I have ever seen. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic there, but it is extremely annoying, and I have to, skip through it every time I watch this movie. So, that sucks. That absolutely sucks, okay? Their entire plot line sucks. Now, Rey and, what's his name? Kylo Ren's, whole, idea, their whole, plot line is really good. So I will say that, with, their entire, story is extremely good. And even in all of the movies, it's really good. So I say that this is extremely well done. I say that the returning actors are also extremely good, too. So I give this a 6 out of 10. Solo, a Star Wars story. I have to say, I think people are a little hard on this movie. It's not a masterpiece or the best movie ever made or anything, but it's an enjoyable enough action adventure movie. I'm happy that they don't try to force in Jedi stuff. They don't try to force in the Force, I guess. They just make a movie about what happens to random people. It's honestly a much more enjoyable film if you detach it from the characters that we know that Han Solo and Lando become, honestly. I know that some people don't like Donald Glover and his performance here, even though I know that the guy that plays Lando in, I don't remember his name, in Empire Strikes Back is, real good. I think Donald Glover did a great job. So, I really enjoy it. It's more of just a fun action film. It's not anything amazing, but it's fun. Now, most Star Wars fans don't like this movie because reasons. I mean, I'm not saying they're invalid. I'm just saying I don't know what they are. But, I just love this movie. I don't love it a ton, but it's just such an enjoyable film. And I was watching through the soulless Disney movies, even though I like them, most of them, enough. It just feels like they were created by a board of people. It feels like every single decision is being calculated to make sure it was maximum crowd-pleasing entertainment. With this, it didn't really feel like that. It felt like actual, I know that there was some behind-scenes drama, but I don't care, okay? It felt like real people. Felt like they actually tried to make an enjoyable story, and I really enjoy it for that. So, I give it a 7 out of 10. And finally, we are at the end of Star Wars films so far. I don't know if they're going to make any more in the near future. It's possible in 20 years they'll make another one, but it feels like they've honestly wrapped it up. I feel like they were going to make another, one more side movie, and then that was going to be it. But after the failure of Solo, they were like, okay, let's just not do that. So, yeah, I understand this movie is not amazing. I think people are a little hard on it. It's not as bad as The Last Jedi, in my opinion. The Last Jedi isn't terrible, but I find this movie a lot more entertaining than just like, boring. Like, it seems like J.J. Abrams actually cared, and he actually tried. It's just that Disney tried so hard to make this a success that it hilariously backfired on them. This was a complete reactionary movie to what should have happened. Like, I hated Rose, but they just felt like they pushed her out of the movie just because people hated her. Like, come on. And, this whole, thing of, her being able to heal people so they don't die, it's like, that just cheapens the Force so much. Like, people shouldn't be able to heal, from death. That's so wrong. Like, it feels like so wrong for this universe. Because I always thought of the Force as a kind of, what it does is it's not a thing. It's it's called the Force. It's a force of nature in a way that makes it so that a Force is supposed to help whatever side is down. So if the Sith are in charge, it helps the Jedi. If the Jedi are in charge, it helps the Sith more, like in the prequels. I always thought that was how it worked. I always thought that reviving people was just something I didn't think it would ever do. I don't know. I guess if it just seems like crowd-pleasing entertainment. It's not, I feel like, this is something where I just decide I don't want to even, it just demystifies the Force so much. I always had so much high hopes. There was so much potential for this movie, but it just was just disappointing, honestly. And the only thing that saves this movie from being an absolute train wreck is the directing of J.J. Abrams. Yes, I'll be honest, he's the best part of this movie, okay? He directs it in a way that is both funny and entertaining at the same time, and even though the script is, genuinely terrible and awful, the directing is so good. I mean, I wouldn't say it makes up for it, but it is make it enjoyable, at least, if you just turn your brain off. So, of course, I'm going to turn my brain on to make sure that I criticize this as much as possible. Now, one problem here is that Emperor Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine, who I just learned is named Sheev Palpatine. I didn't know that. Today I learned that, okay? But it's more of it just feels like he's such a stale character. He's been the main antagonist in every single movie in the Skywalker saga. Yeah, all 9 of them. That's insane. And it's just dude, let Kylo Ren, if Kylo Ren had to work for some big bad guy, have him work for Snoke. Have Snoke have come back from the dead. I don't know. You know what? Don't have Snoke come back from the dead. Just make him work for himself. Or make him work for some random evil guy that we don't ever see before. Right? I don't care. I don't know. This movie is giving me so little to work with, right? It kind of retroactively ruins Vader's sacrifice. I know people have already pointed this out, but it's kind of sad to see, Darth Vader, he's the guy. He sacrificed his life for his son. But instead, it's just then he's not. Now, I know that you might have gotten the wrong impression from this review. I do enjoy this film a lot. It's a very fun movie, and I enjoy it a lot more than Last Jedi. But it's just, the plot is just so terrible. So, even though I've complained about a lot more stuff, because it's a lot easier for me to complain about stuff than explain why something's good, I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun movie. If you're not a Star Wars fan, you'll really like it. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll probably hate it. But I would be a lot higher if the script was even decent. It would be better. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. The directing is amazing, the acting is great, and whatever. The script and story are horse shit. So, 7 out of 10. Now, after watching all of these movies, can I call myself a fan? No, I'll be honest. Even though there were a lot of things I enjoyed about it, I just don't care very much about Star Wars. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but right now, it's not very promising. So, what I'm going to end you off with is my ranking of the movies, and I will say that I hope for the best. It looks like Star Wars is going in a good direction with The Mandalorian, which is a great show, and, other things like that. Hopefully, it'll get better, and if they make more movies later, they'll be good. So, I don't know. Here's the ranking here, okay?